The wind screamed across the white mountains, carrying with it the sound of something ancient, something that had slept beneath the ice for centuries. In that blinding storm, 3 figures struggled against the cold, their faces buried beneath frost-crusted masks, their boots sinking deep into snow that looked endless. The air burned in their lungs. Every step forward felt like a fight against the earth itself. They had been walking for 9 hours straight, guided only by the faint blue light of a half-broken tracker. The leader, Ethan Ward, kept glancing at the device in his glove. Its signal flickered weakly, pointing toward a point on the map marked with a single name, Tomb 17. No one really believed it existed, until now. Behind him trudged Dr. Soren Malik, the expedition's archaeologist, his beard frozen stiff, his eyes wide with the thrill of discovery even in this deathly cold. He carried a small black case strapped to his chest, the key, he said, to unlocking what lay beneath the mountain. The third was Alex Vega, a cameraman and drone operator, young and restless, recording every second on his frostbitten lens. The footage was meant for a documentary. But deep down, none of them believed the world would ever see it. "Ethan!" Soren shouted through the roar of the wind. "We're close. The scanner shows an air pocket below the ridge." Ethan turned, squinting through his goggles. The ridge loomed ahead, jagged and black against the swirling snow. "That's where it is," he said. "The ice tomb." They reached the ridge at dusk, the sky bleeding crimson behind the peaks. Ethan drew a small flare, its orange glow trembling against the storm. He marked a point on the ice and began drilling through, the machine vibrating in his numb hands. Steam hissed from the contact. The ice was old, older than the last civilization that vanished from these lands. Soren knelt beside him, brushing away shards with his gloved fingers. Beneath the thin layer of frost, strange lines appeared, carvings, symbols no one had seen before. Circular patterns, etched with mathematical precision, spiraling into a single point. He froze, staring at them. "This isn't a tomb," he murmured. "It's something else, something built to keep things in, not buried under." The word sent a chill even colder than the air through Ethan's spine. Night fell fast. They set up camp in a small cave near the ridge, the howling wind outside like a living thing trying to get in. Alex adjusted the camera, speaking softly into it, his voice trembling slightly. "Day 12, he whispered. "Temperature, -40. We found carvings near the ice ridge. Dr. Malik believes it's a containment site. Ethan says we dig tomorrow." When they finally slept, the mountain didn't. Strange sounds echoed through the valley, low vibrations, like metal groaning beneath the earth. And far below the surface, something stirred for the first time in centuries. At dawn, they began the excavation. Their drills bit deeper into the ice, breaking through layer after layer until the sound changed, hollow, empty. Ethan stopped the drill, pressed his ear to the surface. "There's a chamber below us," he said. "Get the thermite." Soren hesitated. "You're sure we should?" "Do it," Ethan cut him off. They placed the charge and stepped back. The explosion was muffled by the snow, and when the smoke cleared, a perfect circle had melted into the ice, revealing a black shaft that exhaled a gust of air so cold it burned their skin. The air smelled wrong. Like metal and dust. Like something that hadn't seen the sun for 1,000 years. Alex shone his light down the hole. The beam vanished into darkness. "That's at least 30 meters deep," he said. "I can't see the bottom." Ethan tied a rope around his waist. "I'm going first." Soren grabbed his arm. "Ethan, wait. We don't know what's down there. The carvings, they warned about this place. The symbols mean restraint. Containment." Ethan looked back, his eyes steady. Containment means there's something worth keeping in. And that means it's worth finding. He descended slowly, his boots scraping against the icy walls. The light from his headlamp flickered across shapes frozen into the ice, bones, hundreds of them, twisted, half melted, faces locked in silent screams. "Soren," his voice crackled through the radio, "there are bodies down here. Thousands, maybe more." "What kind of bodies?" Soren asked. "Human. And something else." He reached the bottom and stepped into a vast open chamber, a cathedral of ice. In the center stood a massive structure of dark stone, buried halfway in frost. Symbols pulsed faintly on its surface, glowing blue for an instant, then fading like dying embers. Ethan walked closer, his light trembling. It wasn't a tombstone. It was a door. Ethan raised his trembling hand and brushed the frost away from the strange stone. The symbols beneath the ice seemed to breathe, faint pulses of light running through them like veins. The more he looked, the more they began to move, not literally, but as if his eyes couldn't decide what shape they were. Circles became spirals, lines twisted into symbols he couldn't read, and for a second, he thought he saw an ice staring back. "Ethan, what do you see?" Soren's voice cracked through the radio. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He stepped closer, placing his palm on the stone door. It was cold, so cold that his glove stiffened instantly, but beneath that, there was something like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, ancient. He pulled his hand back, breathing heavily. "There's energy down here," he said finally. "Something alive." Above, Soren and Alex exchanged nervous glances. "We're coming down," Soren said, clipping his harness. Moments later, the two descended into the abyss, their lights flickering across the icy walls. When they reached the bottom, the air felt heavier, thicker. The chamber was silent except for their breathing. Alex slowly lifted his camera and began to record. "Jesus," he whispered, panning across the skeletal remains frozen into the walls. "It's like a graveyard." Soren approached the stone structure, his breath fogging against the icy air. "These markings, they're older than anything I've seen," he muttered. "Pre-human. Maybe even pre-civilization. But some of them," he paused, tracing a symbol with his gloved finger, "these resemble early Sumerian warnings. Do not awaken, do not disturb." Ethan smirked faintly, though his eyes didn't hide his unease. "We didn't come this far to stop at a warning." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "You said the same thing in Peru," he muttered. Ethan ignored him. "Soren, help me find an entrance." Together, they cleared the frost from the base of the structure. Beneath the ice, they uncovered a narrow slit, just wide enough for a human to crawl through. Faint light glowed from within, like moonlight trapped inside the stone. "That's it," Ethan whispered. Alex took a shaky step back. "Wait, before you go in there, we need to think. What if it's a burial chamber? What if opening it is exactly what we're here to do?" Ethan interrupted, crouching near the opening. He turned to them, his face illuminated by the pale blue light. "We didn't come for bones. We came for what they were protecting." Without another word, he slid into the slit. The ice scraped against his jacket as he crawled forward, the light growing brighter, until suddenly, the tunnel opened into another chamber. This one was smaller, circular, its walls lined with strange black crystals that shimmered like stars. At the center of the room was a pedestal of stone, and on it, something that looked like a coffin, carved from pure obsidian, sealed with golden rings etched in the same symbols. Soren's voice echoed through the narrow passage. "Ethan. What do you see?" Ethan's reply came slowly, awed. "It's a sarcophagus. But not human. The proportions, they're wrong." He moved closer, running his light along the smooth black surface. Inside, faint shapes shifted, as if something beneath the stone was reacting to his presence. The golden seals pulsed once, faintly, like the heartbeat he'd felt through the door. Soren crawled in after him, panting from the cold and the crawlspace. When he saw the object, he froze. "Dear God," he breathed. "This isn't a tomb, it's containment. This thing, it's not meant to be opened." Ethan frowned. Then why seal it with gold? Because gold binds energy, Soren said, his voice low and trembling. Ancient cultures used it to trap spirits, entities, forces they couldn't destroy. This isn't treasure, Ethan. This is a prison. But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. His hand hovered over the golden rings, mesmerized by the faint light that shimmered through them. It looked almost like liquid fire trapped beneath the surface. His curiosity outweighed his fear. He reached out. "Ethan, stop," Soren shouted, grabbing his arm. But it was too late. Ethan's glove brushed the seal. The entire chamber trembled. A low hum rose from the walls, the crystals flaring to life with a blinding blue light. The gold rings cracked with a sound like thunder, and a surge of air exploded from the sarcophagus, hurling Ethan backward. The light dimmed. Silence returned. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the coffin began to shift. A web of cracks ran along its surface, glowing from within. Steam hissed out, and a dark mist spilled onto the icy floor, curling like smoke. Ethan lay motionless for a second, then pushed himself up, gasping for breath. What the hell was that? Soren stared at the coffin, his voice trembling. "We opened it." The mist thickened, twisting upward like a living shadow. It had no shape, yet the room grew darker wherever it touched. The crystals on the walls flickered, their light dying one by one. Alex's voice came through the radio, panicked. "Guys? The readings are off the charts. The temperature's dropping, fast." Ethan backed toward the tunnel, his breath coming in clouds. "We're leaving," he said, grabbing Soren's arm. But before they could move, a sound echoed from within the coffin. It wasn't a growl, or a whisper. It was a voice. Old. Hollow. Speaking in a language none of them understood, yet they felt it. The meaning burned into their minds like fire. Soren's face went pale. "It's not dead." The mist surged, slamming into them like wind. Ethan hit the wall hard, his flashlight skittering across the floor. For an instant, in the flicker of light, he saw something inside the mist, two glowing eyes, gold like molten metal, staring straight at him. And then everything went black. When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was silent again. His flashlight lay a few feet away, half buried in frost. The air was thick with fog, the kind that didn't move, the kind that pressed against your skin. He pushed himself up slowly, his body trembling. "Soren," he called out. No answer. "Alex?" His voice disappeared into the darkness. Somewhere far above, he heard the distant groan of the ice shifting, deep, slow, ancient. The mountain was waking up. He found Soren slumped against the wall, blood on his temple, his glasses cracked. Ethan shook him hard. "Soren, wake up." Soren stirred, groaning, and blinked. The seal," he whispered. "You broke the seal." Ethan didn't reply. He turned to the coffin, or what was left of it. The golden rings had shattered, the stone split in half. A thick black mist still leaked from inside, slowly coiling toward the ceiling. In the center of it all, something faintly glowed, a shape, tall and human-like, but shifting, as though made of smoke and flame at once. Soren's breath came in short bursts. "It's not a spirit," he said. "It's something older, something bound to the earth itself." Ethan stepped back, his hand tightening around his flashlight like a weapon. "We need to get out. Now." He reached for his radio. "Alex, get the ropes ready. We're coming up." Static. Only static. Then a faint sound came through, Alex's voice, broken and distorted. I see something, outside the cave, and then, nothing." The ground shuddered. A crack split the wall beside them, and a gust of freezing air burst through. The crystals on the walls shattered one by one, their light fading into darkness. The figure in the mist turned slowly toward Ethan and Soren. Its eyes burned like liquid gold, not with malice, but with awareness, as if it had just remembered what it once was. When it spoke, its voice was inside their heads. "You broke the silence." Soren fell to his knees, clutching his skull as pain rippled through his mind. Ethan stumbled backward, shouting, "We didn't mean to, we thought it was gold." The voice thundered like an avalanche. "You seek what you cannot hold. You steal what you cannot return." The air grew impossibly cold. Frost crept up Ethan's arms, freezing the fabric of his jacket. The mist thickened, wrapping around him like a living thing. He could barely breathe. He raised his hand and shouted, "Please. We didn't know." The mist paused. For a moment, everything went still, no sound, no movement, just silence. Then, like smoke caught in a gust, the figure began to dissolve, drawn back toward the coffin. Soren's voice was barely audible. "It's going back, it's returning." But the mountain had other plans. A deep rumble shook the chamber, and a shower of ice fell from above. The ground split beneath them. A column of freezing air exploded from the fissure, nearly knocking Ethan off his feet. "Move," he yelled, grabbing Soren's arm and dragging him toward the tunnel. Behind them, the sarcophagus collapsed into itself, imploding with a sound like cracking thunder. The black mist shot upward, vanishing into the cracks in the ice ceiling, as though absorbed by the mountain itself. They crawled through the tunnel, scraping against the jagged ice, every muscle burning. The temperature dropped lower and lower. Ethan's fingers went numb. His lungs ached. But finally, he saw light, the faint shimmer of the cave entrance. They burst out into the open air, collapsing into the snow. The storm had returned, screaming across the mountain like a living thing. Ethan turned toward the entrance just in time to see it cave in, the ice sealing itself shut. Gone. Buried forever. He fell back, gasping, his body shaking uncontrollably. Beside him, Soren lay motionless, his lips blue, his breath shallow. Ethan crawled over and checked his pulse. Faint, but there. "Alex," he shouted over the storm. For a long time, there was no answer. Then, from behind a boulder, Alex appeared, staggering toward them. His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. "It's in the wind," he said, barely able to speak. "I saw it. It's out." Ethan grabbed his jacket. "What do you mean out?" Alex pointed toward the sky. The blizzard twisted above them in unnatural shapes, circles, spirals, faces that flickered in and out of existence. The same symbols from the stone glowed faintly in the storm clouds, as if something had awakened inside the mountain itself. Soren coughed, blood staining the snow. "You can't destroy energy," he rasped. "You can only move it." Ethan looked up, his heart pounding. "Then we didn't release it, we moved it." The storm roared in response, louder now, almost like laughter. Ethan helped Soren to his feet, pulling him and Alex toward the snowmobiles. The wind clawed at their faces, ice biting into their skin. Behind them, the mountain groaned again, not collapsing, but breathing. They started the engines, the roar of the machines barely audible over the storm. As they sped down the slope, Ethan looked back one last time. The summit of the mountain glowed faintly, a pulse of golden light beneath the ice. It was alive. By the time they reached base camp, the wind had calmed. The air was unnaturally still. Ethan stumbled into the tent and collapsed, his hands shaking as he tried to light the lantern. Alex sat across from him, silent, staring into nothing. Soren leaned back, his voice weak. "No one will believe us." Ethan looked at him. "Good," he said quietly. "They shouldn't." Outside, the storm began again, gentle, at first, then growing stronger. But this time, it didn't sound like the wind. It sounded like a voice. Soft. Whispering. Calling their names. Ethan's eyes slowly lifted toward the frozen mountain outside the tent, and for a long, haunting moment, he thought he saw the faint outline of two golden eyes watching from the dark. Then the lantern flickered out.